Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you for attending our Avid Media Composer Web Ultimate 2020 X free webinar. I will introduce our instructor, Mr. Tibor from New York, and he will be taking over from here. We hope you enjoy the session. If you have any questions, please send us a message on the chat or the questions tab. We will answer them all at the end of the webinar, where we will be having a Q&A. So stick around for us to answer all your questions. We highly recommend fast Wi-Fi or direct cable internet for best quality, as well as wearing headphones for the best experience. If your system freezes, please let me know and try to exit the session and then rejoin. I will also inform the instructor so we can figure it out, and as well as he will shake the screen to make sure that you can see if the problem's from your side or from our side. Thank you.
Okay. So welcome everybody, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to our webinar that is going to cover Avid Media Composer version 2028. You know that the systems that have been introduced in 2019 are now using the calendar year point and the month. So that's when we say 2020 point X, the X would be the month. Here's the first thing that you as Avid users know already. The interface is source monitor, record monitor, and the timeline. You also notice that if you're a user that have been around, something changed in the upper left hand. The bins are now a little bit different, and this is the first topic that I need to address with you. I have a number of these sequences and they're all broken down into the topics that I promised you in the promo. So let's try to get to all of them. And if we have some time, we'll talk about how to put video inside the title, because you know that the new Avid Media Composer starting from 2019-6, which was last June, does not have any titling capability where it creates an alpha channel. So we'll deal with that. So the first thing is going to be the interface. The interface right now is set up in such a way that on the right side, you have these buttons that switch you directly from interface to interface. So it sets it up. You still have the Windows drop down where you can have the workspaces activated, but it seems to be much easier if you're in the upper right. I'm going to zoom in. Upper right hand corner, you have those buttons. If you need to obviously make adjustments, the system is very simple. Let's stretch out, for example, our composer window. And if you want to save that particular environment, you should be able to, in the Windows drop down, drop it down, and you're going to call it new workspace. And I'll call it my friends in Dubai, Dubai 01. Workspace, there you go. Let's get the spelling right, Dubai 1. Okay, and if that is now saved, you notice that it's on the bottom right side. So if you switch between work areas, it is much more efficient, much more practical, and much more accessible. So that's the first thing. The second thing about the interface, you notice that it seems to be magnetic. Well, it doesn't seem to be, it is magnetic. And if you're a Premiere user, maybe you heard of Adobe Premiere, or a Final Cut Pro, or even DaVinci Resolve, the magnetic is the way. Now, so Avid says, well, what happens if I need more real estate? You notice that I have 3 bins open, and the bin icons are now registering like the drawer, like in the cabinet drawer. That's how you actually identify what the bin is. So if you right click on it, the drop down gives you close selected bin. You see the drawer is now closed. Okay, so to open up a drawer, you double click on it. Now you have 3 of them fighting for your attention, essentially. So how do you organize things? Can you see multiple ones? Here's one scenario. If I want to have one of those separate, grab it next to the X and tear it off. So now it's a floating standalone. One more time, let's do another one just in case. So if I want to have the webinar sequences, I grab it next to the X. There we go, faster way. It is something that your hands has to get used to. It is a new thing, and Avid is using this for your benefit. So if you want to have the full window, now how do you put it back? The easiest way is to close it, close all of those guys, and open them up again. So let me open it up again. Now I need to see all 4 of them in the same window. This is the coolest thing that anybody has come up with. Watch me. I'm going to grab the Dubai webinar, which you see that is a brownish color. If I right click on it, the background color can be chosen. You can see that you can pick any color that is to your liking by picking in Apple any of those colors. I'm looking to the right because that is what my second computer is to see what your feed should look like. So with that, here's how you split the window. Grab it, and you see those four greens lines. If I grab to the left and put it right now, I split the window horizontally. So now I can see two bins next to each other. If I grab, for example, the one that is the quick green, there we go, drag it and put it on the bottom, turns white, very dexterity. Now I split it three ways. And if I want to have the fourth one, which I believe is the Photoshop is in there, grab the Photoshop, drag it until you see that white. When you see the white, now you split it. You see how it works? If you have the Avid Media Composer, this is going to be the first thing that is going to be important for you to get used to. Not a big deal. It is just how they work on it. That was the interface. The interface to me is the most important one. So I open up a sequence and talk about what is going to be the next topic. Managing sizes, managing fonts, you know how it works. Click inside the bin, tear it off, make it bigger font. You know how to do that in the Media Composer, set the font. That's not a big deal. You already knew that before, so that's nothing new. I'm gonna finish out the interface, and the interface sequence is pretty much done. So what we got out of this is, one, if you look at the left side, whatever bin is open shows that drawer is pulled out. Whatever bin is closed, you can close all of the bins by right-clicking and close them, not delete them. And you still remember that if you right-click, opening a new bin is still Command N. With that, I need to move on. Let's put in the second topic, and the second topic to me is going to be the one that you will hopefully, if you are a trimmer editor, benefit from. Listen to the timeline. I'm going to bring up the volume and see what's going on. Premiumbeat.com. So now we already learned about the sensibility of the dexterity. So the mouse sensibility is now becoming a bigger picture or a bigger issue. Here is something that you as editor on occasionally want. If I want to have a beat, you remember we have an ability on the bottom of the timeline to go into the audio data. In this case, I'm going to choose to see nothing first, and then I'm going to switch it over to globally show only the waveform. So the waveform shows up. On the waveform, you will notice that there are some spikes where it is louder or quieter. So let's look at those spikes and see if we can identify. So let's park on this particular one that is about, I'll tell you how much it is in. It's about 11 seconds into it. So this particular shot, I'm going to pick the beat again. You played the beat. You played one beat. That's the beat. On that beat, I would like to have the guy hit the concrete. So he's going to hit the concrete on the beat. Now I identified where the concrete is. He lands on the concrete with this little marker. So now the question is, how do I move it, meaning the picture, to be earlier or later? You understand the concept of slipping? Slipping is where you have a window and you move the object in the window before or after. So that is the system. There is 6 different ways of slipping it. I will show you the 5 that you're probably already familiar with, and hopefully the 6 you've never seen before, because that's going to be the most powerful. By definition, if you want to move things around, you know that you have to go into trim mode, which is you on the keyboard, holding down shift. Now you have 4 windows. The 4 windows are the last frame of the shot before. The second window is the first frame inside. The third window is the last frame inside, and the fourth window is the next one. And you can move it. The problem is that you have to have a marker, otherwise you don't know where the matchup is going to be. I am trying to match up, you see this red marker with the beat that is a little bit earlier. So I can guess it and say, yeah, that's going to be right there. When I say right there, the beat spike is just under it, and if I move manually dragging it, I should be able to do that. Hit the space bar, should play it. That's it, ends on the beat. Let's hit double check it. That's it. So he ended on that. I hope on your end it plays out, so he ends on that. So that was one way of getting into the slip mode. The second way of getting into slip mode is what, if you are a mouse user, you would love this. Get out of the frame mode is hit you. Lasso from right to left. Lasso from right to left. And now you are in slip mode. Same principle, same tools, everything, except you use a different way of doing that. So that's the second way. The third way of getting into slip mode is going to regular trim mode, which is U. Right click on it, and there is a choice where you select the select trim. So that's your third way of doing that. None of these are actually addressing the frame. You have to mark that frame to match up the sound. That's what the whole point of this exercise is. And the fourth one is going to be my favorite. You go into trim mode, which is U, and double click on the inside. When I say double click on the inside, you double click the inside. One more time. Get out of trim mode, which is U. Get into trim mode. You see that there's a left and right trim. Double click on the inside, it gets you in there. That's 4. I told you there is 5 of them that you may have known, and here's the last one. The last one is the easiest. You have to be in segment mode, which is Shift A, segment mode. And while you're in segment mode, you understand the concept of segment mode, which means that you select a specific pre-cut segment, and you go into trim mode. Now you're in slip. So these are the 5 different ways. None of these ways address the matching of the frame by eyeballing it. So here's the number 6. Hold on to your chairs. This is the coolest thing. So let's you and I agree that this is the beat. When I say this, I am referring to that particular area. I'm going to make sure that you hear that beat. So you, that's the beat, but he's still in the air. So now place your playhead on the sound wave, on the sound waveform, and make sure it's only the video active, only the video active. Using your keyboard shortcuts that are M, which is trim multiple frames to the left, comma, single frame to the left, period, 1 frame to the right, and / multiple frames to the right. Using that, what will happen is that the playhead will move the image. This is really powerful. So you don't need to have trim mode. You don't have to do 4 windows. You can just say, I'm going to trimming the image, and watch how that red dot moves. It moves in the right direction, doesn't it? And you can see how the place matches. There we go. That's where his feet hit the ground. If I play it now, perfect. Well, identify what perfect is, but it is much easier. Now I'm going to have another one. This is a shot before, and this shot is going to be messed up, and I'll tell you what beat I'm looking for. On that beat. That's the beat, and it's about 5:29 seconds into it. Let me park it. I'll play it so you can hear it. That's the beat. I hope my hand and the sound comes through the feed. That's it. On that beat, I would like to have the guy with the green shirt up on that ledge. So the same thing that you and I just did. We park on the sound wave. Park on the sound wave. Sound wave in this case is that spike. That spike. Park on it as close as you can. Make sure only video is active. And use your trim tool to move the frame earlier or later. In this case, if I move it, there we go, there we go. The guy's going to be on the ledge, and he's on the ledge. J plays it back, you know that. And L plays forward. Boom, he's on the ledge. Don't trust me if I messed it up. I'm off a couple of frames, park them back, and move it. One, two, three. That is. Full screen window on the Media Composer is Command Shift F. So when we play it, okay, if he's off, we still have the ability to fix it. Remember, question is how do you find it? And that's where I'm going to put it. So this sixth trimmer tool is going to be the portion that I wanted to throw at you. If you know it, I'm refreshing it. If you didn't, I am happy to find something new. Let's move on. Time warp. We talk about the timing. The time warp is a really cool thing, especially in the 2019 6. From that point on, now we're in 2020. It is now real time backwards. It's real time freezes. Everything is real time now. So let me give you a scenario where I can make interesting things. So the time warp tool is going to be thrown at the shot where the guy is trying to jump through these trees. I'm going to stop him in the trees, somewhere in the tree. So he's going to jump. This section that I have, I'm going to hit T, only selects everything. And the reason why it selected everything, because the longer track rules. We know that if we deactivate audio 1 and 2 and T it again, it only selects the into out area. And if I want to play it, hit 6 on the keyboard. That's the keyboard shortcut. So what I'd like to do is play the shot, freeze him in the air, and then he's going to come down. How do you go about it? Upper left-hand corner in the effects family, you look for the time warp. If you know where the time warp family is, you identify it. If you don't, in the search engine, you can actually always type in time warp, and it will find it for you. I will guide you through the time warp. Time warp has multiple flavors. All of them are real time. The real time is identified with that green dot. That's a conditional real time, meaning that if you have multiple ones, something may have to be rendered. But right now, I don't have any other effects, so I should be able to just apply the flagship of the time warp effect called time warp on that shot. The next thing is I need to animate it. I need to tell it where to stop and need to move it on. There is a director from the UK you probably heard, probably saw his movies, Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie used to do this. Stop, freeze the motion, and continue. Commercials all around the world are now stop motion, speed motion, things of that sort. So that is what this tool is helping to identify. How do you animate it? Park on the effect icon. Say hello to your old friend, the effect editor effect mode. It only works in that effect mode. It doesn't work in the big effect mode. That's a special effect. It doesn't work in that one. So you need to be, when you want to edit the time warp, you need to edit it with the effect mode. It's a floating. And if the floating comes in, there we go. You have two windows to work with. If you have worked with this, you know what I'm talking about. If you are new to this, please welcome to the running man, which is a speed graph. And the speed graph identifies that I am running at 100 speed. I can play the playhead inside the editor. I can play the playhead inside the timeline, and I can play in the composer window. So here's the thing. I'm going to freeze it in the air, add a keyframe. The keyframe that I have should come down to 0. And watch what happens when I bring it down to 0. It is gradually coming down to 0. So the algorithmic interpolation is gradually bringing it. I want to instantly stop it. So you have two choices. One choice is right click on the keyframe and say, hey, shelf it, which essentially translates to you're going to have 100%, and instantly when I give you 0, you're going to stop. Please watch it. Done. That's it. He stopped. Now, if I want to have him stop in the air and then continue playing, the logic would be add another keyframe and bring it back to 100%, because it is set up for the scenario where you are doing it in shell. Stops, freezes, continues. And that can be done, as I said, either right click on the icon, which represents the keyframe, or go into the hamburger. Hamburger is always when you're hungry for knowledge. So that's the fast menu. Same thing. Let's play it out real time again. So it stops a little bit short. If I want to have the duration of the freeze frame longer, holding Option, dragging it out so it will stay longer frozen. And you notice that I messed up the number. It's not 100%. It generally snaps to it, but if you want to be very specific, look at this number here. I type in 100, signifying that that's 100%. So if I now play it, I'm gonna slow it down a little bit and continues. Now, because this shot is such an interesting shot, I'm gonna get rid of a whole bunch of stuff before or after, and you remember how to do that. I have a friend called Trimmer, so I'm gonna trim all the way to the end as much as I can, and I'm gonna maybe trim a bit before, because I need to show you how I can stop him in the air, flip him back in the air, and continue in real time. You will like this. If you use this, this is the coolest thing that anybody can come up with. So let me play you the scenario. Right now, I have no effect on it. If I take off, we in New York like to call this the Ghostbuster effect. There was a movie back 30 years ago, Ghostbusters, maybe you heard of it. So that's the removal effect. So here's what original footage looks like. Because I want to make sure that it's playing the entire thing, please watch it. Command Shift F, full screen, and I'm going to hit 6, so it's going to play only the into out. Let me see if I can make that work. And 6. Okay, so there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. One more time. I'm watching the Dell feed. So if you understood that the guy is jumping through the tree, I will stop him in the air. I will have him flee back and then move on. Step 1, say hello to your old friend, which is now old friend because you met him before, time warp. Drag it onto it. When the time warp needs activation, you click on the effect mode, and the effect mode comes up. So you and I will freeze him somewhere just before he dives over the tree. Click on it. Because we need to always pay attention to the interpolation, we change it. The default is always going to be spline. When I say always, when you start it up, it doesn't remember what the previous one. So you need to physically always say spline. So I'm going to bring it down to 0, which is, if I mess it up, the number I can type in 0. So that's the easiest way to make sure that that keyframe is on 0. So I freeze it. I'm going to hold it frozen, and I'm going to go backwards minus 100%, which is by numerically typing in minus 100. So it will go backwards, and I'm going to freeze it one more time, go back to 0, and I'm going to add another keyframe to play it. See if this all works out well in real time. Real time is the key, guys. Hit the space bar. Let's play just that section in full screen, see if it works. I have the in and out, which is IO. I teed it. T is selecting all those. And when I hit the Command Shift F full screen and hit 6 on the keyboard, real time. Hands, all magic. Let's do it one more time. So now, if you are interested in doing things, you can obviously accelerate things and play faster. So you can start with 250, then it freezes. Let's see how that works. Because I went further down, obviously the keyframes don't match, but you understand that this tool that you have now been exposed to time warp is a very practical one. Let's get out of here. What I did was pretty much cover that section. So now let's go into the effects templates. Okay, we have about maybe 15, 20 more minutes. The effects templates is something that you are familiar with, where you say, I have an effect that is a transitional effect. For example, let's say a wipe. You grab a wipe and you drag it onto the transition, and it's going to be a wipe. And the wipe is nice. Okay. And then you drag maybe a vertical open, or maybe, for example, I like these. The illusion effects have nice ones. Flares or film grain, and some of them are segment effects, some of them are transitional. So if it doesn't want to go in the transition, it clears the segment effect. But I'm looking for a matrix wipe that is going to be really nice, the spiral one. And here it is. Now, you know by now that in order for you to grab an effect, you have to physically either be on that transition. Let me show you what I mean by that. G clears into out. Click on that transition. I'm going to take the existing effect. And if the transition needs to be that spiral effect or speckle, you physically drag it into that section. So that's one. You got that. You also understood that in the past, if you were in the effect editing tool and you select not one, but multiple transitions holding down your shift, you can select multiple transitions to respond to whatever you want to apply there. Meaning that if I want to have that applied, watch this, I'll double click and all of them will going to be the speckle. So all of them are speckled. That's easy. Okay, and all of them are speckled. All of them are speckled. But I had to go into the effect mode and select individually. Now, here is the new tool. If you have a effect, and let's say you and I will have a special effect, we're going to dip to black. By definition, you guys know that it is a tool that you pick, which is the quick transition. If you do command comma, this is now how you activate your keyboard settings, command comma. Things become now user, project, and site separate. User setting, you open up and find out what the keyboard setting is. If you don't remember where it is, type in the first time the K, and it will stop at the first occurrence of K. Keyboard, this is your active keyboard. So right now on the active keyboard, you know which are the buttons and what they do. In this scenario, the tool that I'm referring to is the quick transition. So keep that in. It is the backslash button if you use the single button. So with that, if you go into transition, you hit that button. The quick transition says I have certain defaults, and the defaults are dissolve. This additional stuff is showing up out of nowhere. No, it's not. I have to tell you how that shows up, which means that you can customize things and save them, because the whole benefit of this tool is that you can across the board define that everybody gets the transition. So if I have all those transitions there, step one, take them off, go into effect mode, select options, select all of those transitions and hit delete, or use your friend the Ghostbuster, which is taking them off. So now nobody has anything. If you want to apply a transition for everybody, which is what we have in past, in, out, a blanket, put a blanket on it. And in the blanket, you can say, I'm going to have all of them a nice dissolve. And it's going to be a dissolve starting in the cut, maybe 12 frames. Even numbers are the preferred numbers, you know that. And apply to all of them. It will say, okay, apply it, and everybody gets it. Now, notice this. I have a bin called quick. What's this for real estate? Transitions. Do you see that? Quick transitions. If I open up that bin, in that one, there should be stuff that is of significance. So whatever the quick trans is there, nothing in that, but the quick transitions have a dip to white and 3D work. If I rename that, and this is what the renaming was, FX templates, because that's what we usually call, I lose that connection. I lose that connection. What I'm referring to is the connection. I don't have access to those anymore. Okay, I only have the defaults. So if you, one more time, take the effects off, which in this case will be going to the effects mode, step one, select one of those transitions, hold down option, lasso everybody else, hit delete or take it out. Now you and I will create a black dip to color. By definition, click on the transition. The dip to color is in electronic 7.5 black in the NTSC. In PAL, I'm not 100% sure on it. I don't want to make things up. But in this case, I'm going to have it set up as center and cut 12 frames. And I will add it to that particular one. Now, to take it off, you guys know that if you open up the effect editor, you can grab that dip to color and put it into a template bin, which in this case, I'm going to call it dip to black, BLK. If you want to change it, let's go desert sand. Click on the pictures. If the icon doesn't give you the color right away, double click on it and make it like a nice desert sandy color. Hello. I don't know if that's enough. I don't know. Let's say that. So now that's the color. I will save that dip to color to desert sand. I'll call it DS, desert sand. So now I have a bin called FX Temporalator. I misspelled it. If you remember, I just told you minutes ago that you rename that quick, this is crucial, quick space transitions. Spelling has to be proper. Transitions. Now the computer will recognize whatever is in that bin. I have dip to color, desert sand, black and white, and a 3D work picture fly out. So if Now, next time I go back, and I'm going back again here, I preset it mark in, that's crucial, and go in the box. The drop down now shows me all the things that I have in that bin called quick transitions. This is really, really practical because you know there's two things. You can apply to all of them the dip to desert sand. If, there we go, choose it. So let's look at it in big screen. Command S would be a good idea to save it. Command Shift F, please watch it. So now the cool thing is that this quick transition you can grab and take it with you. And around the world, wherever you're working, or depending on what agencies you're working, those templates that you have now are a separate bin. That is this section of the demonstration. So you can customize things. And now, instead of just being available individually, you can use the in, out, and we're gonna do a dip to white. Go back into the quick transition, singular. Pick the dip to white, which is below the line. Make sure that it's applied to everybody. When I add it, now I should have all of them have dip to white. Command Shift F, full screen. White, white, dip to white, and dip to white. So that's that portion. Command that saves it. Moving along, going to the color issue. We talked about separate colors and interesting colors. So here are possible scenarios that you may run into. Let me play you the image, play you the stuff, and you will notice that in my scenario, the guy wears a blue shirt. And the grass is like very, or the greens are very, very dense. So one more time, if I go home and play it, you notice that the guy has a blue shirt. Now, the blue shirt by definition was chosen because you notice that I'm using a symphony. In symphony, you have this green dot identifying the effect. So now I'm in color. Let's go into color. Y waveform, which is a luminous waveform, is generally in the upper left hand, and the vector scope is generally on the right side. And the vector scope displays the amount of color, the left side, the amount of brightness. You notice that my brightness is all the way to the maximum brightness and the darkness is all the way to the bottom. And the color, it seems to be, is in the quadrant that is between 6 to 9. That is a lot of green. That's where the green lives. So if I take off the effect that I just applied, watch it. First of all, I don't have that much green. So the secondary was the one that I used. And also, if I look at the beginning, the guy's shirt is not blue, but red. Okay, so what did I do? This is what I did. In order for me to demonstrate this properly, I will probably take off the whole effect from there, which is removing it. So here it is. If you work with secondary color correction in Avid, you understand the principle of the secondary, where you click on a particular color, presuming there is no other color on that footprint, meaning on the video, and say hello to your friend, the syringe. The syringe is not working as a pixel. It picks a whole variety of those. And if you remember that inside the window, if you click inside and do a Command L, you zoom into the image. Command Option allows you to move around. So now I'm going to pick a color. And I haven't picked a color because I just zoomed in. So let me do one more time. Can I reset it? Yes, reset it. Take it off. Now the syringe picks the reds. I picked the red. I'm syringe picking the red. And it does isolate it and says, I'm going to be isolating the red from everybody else. Presuming there is no red anywhere else, it would work. Now, your problem obviously is going to be the shadowing. But still, I selected the red, and the red is now going to be changed to. Do you see the left window? That is the color that you picked, and it's in the red around 11, 12 o'clock. I'm going to change it to, let's say, green. So move the, there we go, changes to green. It's now turned green. If you're lucky and there is no need for cleanup, you should now play it. And when you deactivate the isolation, now the guy is in green shirt. Double checking it, Command Shift F. That's it, it's in the green shirt. Now, the problem you see is what? You see that shadows interfere. So the cleaner the color is, the easier it's for you to select it. Because anytime I lose the color because I picked only a certain shade of green. So this is one way of manipulating color, but I have additional ones. So let's go and find out in this shot how to deal with that. I got about maybe just less than 10 minutes. So moving along. Park on the shot, the same thing. I may have some color adjustment on it, reset it, and now let's talk about what's going on. This is a shot where a stationary camera is pointing at a woman who has lots of red on her. And I have the lips red, I have the uh, scarf around her, and I have the dress. So I have to decide which red do I pick as a reference to either emphasize it or de-emphasize it. With the curves, you know that if you push the red, everybody gets redder. If you take the red off, everybody gets the red off. So reset that would be option, double click on. So the separation, the secondary is the tool that you should consider. So if you have the symphony, this is how it works. By definition, you need to pick the color. So the input vector picks the color. And I pick a whole bunch of red, which is on her dress. And you notice that she is separated. You see how separated? And you can notice that some of the red was not picked right. So maybe the forehead, maybe the lips, but this is where you will have a new tool, and I'm going to show you that tool. That's going to be a separate tool. And instead of doing the red, emphasizing more of the red, pushing it, there we go. And that's silly, but you notice how drastic it is. It looks artificial. It looks silly. So how do you separate it? This is a quick demonstration of how to separate things. A couple of choices. One choice is going to add another track of video. And on that track video, whatever you had, which is this particular segment where the woman is looking at the doctor, Shift A, select it, hold down, Option, Command Shift, so it is locked and it doesn't go left or right. It duplicates that particular layer above. Whatever I have on those layers, I'm going to go on the top layer, and on the top layer, I'm going to introduce to a friend that is called KEY. KEY, it's a mat. And the Animat is the tool that I'm going to park on it. Before I park on it, I'll take the effect of the second one because I don't want to have two red ones. One red, another red. I'm looking at the monitors. Monitor one layer, another layer. So that's how you monitor it. I'm going to take off the effect of the second one. So the second one's going to lose the effect. That's it. And adding a Animat is going to give me a shape control. Here's how the shape control works. You're familiar with the Animat. You need to define what is the shape. So you need to draw it. Here's my drawing. Lucky for me, that woman is kind of pretty much stationary, but the guy comes in. So let's just get the first portion of it. Get the shape. Pick all the reds around her. There we go. And if I have that separated, I have two choices. I can have it soloed, which means that I have a key in. So the top layer is keyed into the behind thing, or I cut a hole in it. So if I cut a hole out, guess what? If I don't want to see it, there we go. Here's the red. So only that red is being affected, not the lips, not the scarf. And when I play it out, Command Shift F, it looks actually much more separate. So that's one of the separations that you can work with. The last element is something that in the webinar we talk about how to put video inside the title. I'll bring in the title. The title is coming in from the Photoshop. Put it into the source monitor. Bring it in. Video 1, 2, 3. Let's bring it in all 3 layers. Bring it as an overwrite. There we go. Okay, so fill up one of them, which is the filler. I'm going to pick up the red. The red looks like this is the red. I'm going to fill it with video. Double click in it. T it. Select what comes in here, and I'm going to pick a shot, and I'm going to put this guy in here, and I'm going to put a guy in here, the running guy, for example. Here's the running guy. How much of him? I don't really know what is going to be duration unless the in and out is selected. Please watch it, and here it is. Overwrite. So the guy is inside the video. That's that. And this pretty much concludes our webinar. I hope you got something out of this. If you want to come back to us, please. We are Exceed Media. We're going to post the phone numbers and the emails, and hopefully see you in the future. I thank you for your attention. My name is Tibor. Salam from New York, and good luck. Keep on using Avid. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Tibor. That was a great session. Hope you guys join us next time. Have a good one.